Be clear, this bill is not about education. It is about privatization. This is about privatizing further our ECE sector, which is already struggling. It is about privatizing our education sector, which is already struggling. Madam Speaker, we have heard from Select Committee stage, we have heard in terms of the Committee of the whole House, we're trying to get any sort of sense out of the Associate Minister on this bill, and what we get is campaign slogans and politicization and divide and conquer technique. Madam Speaker, this week is New Zealand Chinese Language Week, so I would like to, enlighten the House on an old Chinese proverbs. 鹬蚌相争，渔翁得利. When the crane and the clam fight, it is the fisherman who benefits. Who actually benefits from this bill? It is not the children, it is not the teachers, it is certainly not the parents that they care so much about. It is the privatized company, it is the overseas companies who wants to come here and take New Zealand money. It is about the privatized ECE centers who wants to funnel the money offshore. It is not about education. Madam Chair, one of the things that we did when during the committee stage is going through the bill, because it is quite a rush process. We identified a number of issues with the bill that deserves some tweaking. So, in a lot of the amendments that I put forward, there were genuine amendments that would tidy up certain elements of the bill. But what we have seen from this government is that they actually don't care. They don't care what the other side is doing. They don't care whether there are genuinely amendments that is based on common sense, that is based on evidence, that is based on good grammar. It is just simply, we don't listen, we don't want to hear what we are just going to do what we want to do because this is what our coalition government has agreed to, despite the fact there are severe contradictions within what the Associate Minister and what the Minister is doing, within what the Associate Minister himself is doing in some of the announcements he's made regarding attendance. Madam Speaker, one of the things you find in terms of the announcements around charter schools is the fact that, the Associate Minister said charter schools will have a higher requirement. Well, apparently, that when you're looking at some of the EQI, when you're looking at some of the elements, charter schools only require 35% of regular attendance, where they want state schools to have 80% regular attendance. That's just one of many examples that we haven't heard. The minister can say, the Social Minister can say, it is tougher. Great. Sounds pretty. That's not what it actually means. Madam Speaker, when we are going through this bill, let's start with the charter school component. This is not. Charter school has been in Aotearoa before. It hasn't worked. They've been reverted back to state. They have improved outcomes during that stage, now that they're part of the state school. ECE centers, we are hearing that teachers are struggling. Parents are really concerned about where they're at. Parents are really concerned about how much more they have to pay for ECE because of the privatization component, because of the fact that when it comes to the privatization, when you are asking schools to be able to operate for profit, they would put profit over education. Now, Madam Speaker, the Associate Minister talks all about history and evidence and education, which sounds incredibly pretty. But what we have seen throughout the entire process is that there's not an ounce of evidence that they have considered. During the Select Committee stage, for example, we have mentioned that 90.3% of the people who submitted opposed charter schools. 96.3% of the people opposed the repeal of the ECE network. And people in the government side, people on the Select Committee could say, well, that's because the unions came out. Well, I'm sorry, why didn't the parents come out then? If you think the parents care so much about it, surely they will weigh in and they will make a submission. Maybe because the people who submitted on it were genuine experts in the field with decades of experience that you have, sorry, Madam Speaker, that the government has decided to brush aside and not take it into consideration. That is not listening to evidence. That is not caring about the communities. That is not caring about what people genuinely think. No, that is just fancy politicization. Madam Speaker, what we're also seeing with this bill, and when we're looking at the evidence, again, the government keep on quoting evidence that's been used overseas. They keep on using different reports and etc. But again, none of that has been substantiated. None of that has credible peer review. Peer review is really important. The other thing, Madam Speaker, that I want to address is the idea of creating a non-existent culture war between parents and teachers. That is appalling, Madam Speaker. We are here talking about the future of our generations. We're here talking about Kotakitanga. We're here talking about everyone coming together to work towards the same goal. But what we are hearing instead from the Associate Minister is like, no, we only want to hear from X group. The parents know best. What does the union really know? This is not about this. The teachers, this is all about the unions pocketing the money. It's the same ecosystem, Madam Speaker. The parents need to rely on the teachers to do their job. They are professionals, going from ECE all the way to the tertiary sector, Madam Speaker. These are professionals who spent years perfecting their craft, who spent years, dedicating their life to the education of the next generation. In any other country, Madam Speaker, teachers are revered for the work that they do, for the nurturing that they do to our future generations. But apparently that is not the case here in Aotearoa, Madam Speaker. Why is that? Why are we creating this unnecessary cultural war between teachers and parents? That is unacceptable, Madam Speaker. Why? Why are we doing that? When we are looking at some of the things we have heard, from ECE teachers who are teachers in for-profit ECE centers, we're hearing about the stories of how they can't even take a break. They are on the verge of like, should I wear the diapers alongside my students? Because the minute I take a break, I break ratio. That is because when we don't resource enough, when we don't support our education sector enough, when we put profit over the lives of our teachers who looks after our students and our future generations and our children, this is what happens, Madam Speaker. Now, the Green Party wants to see a thriving public education system where everyone's able to thrive, teachers and students, and also teachers being able to work with parents, but we are not going to be seeing that with this bill. Madam Speaker, I'm flabbergasted at the fact that we are allowing this to go through under urgency. That we are allowed to divide our education system and being able to put in $153 million into a system that has no evidence domestically or internationally that has worked. I am horrified at the fact that we are allowing, that the governing party, the National Party, is allowing their coalition partners to lead them by the nose and spend all of their money. So, Madam Speaker, it's not that party's money. It is the taxpayers' money that the government is spending frivolously on vanity projects. Madam Speaker, I expect that the minister and members of the government on the other side, because they love the school system so much, will be sending their students to charter schools. I expect that. At the very least, I expect those members to be answerable to their communities on why their schools are no longer getting the funding that they deserve.
Katie, no.
Damn. Now that's the real education minister right there.
The future education minister in waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite strangely enough. Yeah, Lawrence does really know his stuff, especially about the ECE.
That's because he's also worked as a teacher.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if in the future charter schools are going to have food in schools, but non-charter schools aren't, and that could be a competitive edge.
Mm.
I just am wondering though, what are the alternative proposals that like the Labour parties and the Green parties are proposing? Because they keep saying this is bad, but we all know there's something wrong with the public education system, and I haven't seen any other proposals or alternative proposals to fix or remedy the problems that are within the public system.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I think no one would disagree that there are problems with our public education system. I mean, I certainly spend a lot of my time arguing and having really good discussions with the Ministry of Education and a lot of different groups that we need to make our education system more accessible, more inclusive, certainly for disabled and neurodiverse students. So, you know, it's not perfect, but I think the alternatives that we've seen here through this bill are certainly not the answer from my perspective. But I think it's probably a little bit too early in the cycle to start seeing definitive positions coming out from Labour, and I can't really speak for the Greens, but it's probably a little bit too early. Maybe you'll start seeing some things come out next year.
I agree with you, Nick. From a policy standpoint, it's still in discussion and development. Just speaking as a greenie, we have been talking about this behind the scenes.
Right.
I can't comment. I'm not part of any political party.
Well, I'm part of the top, but we haven't had any discussions on it so far. We're
Oh, you're on top. Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
We've got our own parliament here.
Now, if anyone does know that in 2022 I did apply to become their treasurer, but they went with someone else.
Right.
That's right. I'm now the treasurer of the Newtown Residents Association, and I made my first important decision yesterday on what term deposit rate are we going to put our investment fund in for the next cycle. And I chose the 6 months at the 5.65% because that will deliver us the most money over the next 6 months.
Nice.
I know, but I'm expecting an OCR cut coming in the next was it later this month? So I wanted that locked in before the OCR came in. So yes, that's my my little one. I am the treasurer of RNRA.